to Underrated. You know what? I might rename the channel Underrated. So I'm talking about shows and movies. Here, I'm going to recommend another show. You can watch it for I've noticed the older the show is, they'll post all the episodes online, especially if it's an older show. But sometimes if those shows don't have a big following, it just gets harder to find that show. There's a couple of shows I'm trying to find. But here, you can watch it all on YouTube. Um, and maybe it's on Tubi, but YouTube. And the show I'm talking about is based off the newspaper comic strip Dilbert. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I had a great time with this, and I have a feeling this is just my personal opinion. A lot of these older adult shows, cartoon shows, I feel like they're a lot better nowadays. Um, especially when you get older and you understand a lot of the jokes that goes on into these shows. It's 10 times funnier. And I first time I discovered this show, I discovered it I think like 6 years ago, 6 or 7 years ago. I think maybe 2017 I discovered it. It came on the IFC channel, and they would air a show. They would air an episode like every morning around like 9:30 or 10, and I would catch it. And I was really digging the show. It was actually quite funny. It reminded me a little bit of Family Guy, but I don't know if I would compare this show with Family Guy. But the story of this series is about a engineer, mathematical engineer. I mean, I don't know much about that career, who's basically trying to you're basically just experiencing Dilbert's life as an engineer, from being single, living with his dog, but dealing with a bunch of unusual, weird co-workers and his boss, just constantly getting in these weird day-to-day situations, and it's quite hilarious to be honest with you. Like he has that one friend. I think it's I think it's like a stereotype of just you had that one friend or office worker who's like the loudmouth and the nosy kind of coworker, and then the boss that always just puts assignments on you and just doesn't care and just wants to make sure it gets done, and very egotistical and cynical. Like I love how exaggerated that they expand on these roles of at that time what life is like working as an office worker, and then I guess theoretically maybe you would be literally talking to your dog to cope with your just with your insanity of dealing with with that kind of lifestyle, working an office job, which I'm sure everybody catches on the current trend. Nobody wants to do that anymore. Uh, this series lasted for 2 seasons, and I like that in each episode they try to do different. They would examine different ideas in each episode. It's been a minute since I've seen the series, but I do own it on DVD. But you can watch it on YouTube. There is I guess, compared to all the other adult family related cartoons, I feel like this one really. I think it deals with the writing. I think the writing in this is a lot better. I think the writing tries to come up with unique ways to satire the lifestyle and the life of an office worker, and the somewhat exaggerated scenarios that what they have to deal with, and the people that are involved in living that kind of lifestyle, and sometimes maybe the disrespect that they might get living that kind of lifestyle, and what it kind of entails. Dilbert, who takes very pride in possibly maybe even loves his job, gets so sucked into his career that he lives nothing but for that job. And it's funny where he's very passionate about what he does, and everybody else around him doesn't really care. And I think there's a from the other character's perspective, a lack of respect that they have for him because they don't like the job, they do it for the money. One of the funniest aspects about this, and I loved it, uh, and it's actually one of my favorite episodes, is when Dilbert and his coworkers go to the mall and they explain something about Dilbert's father, and it's just hilarious. Where Dilbert, as a kid, goes to the mall with his father, and they don't show the father's face. The dad gets distracted and sees a all you can eat buffet and goes there, leaves his son, and his son gets lost. Years later, found find find out that Dilbert's dad is still at the diner, not at the diner, still at the buffet, eating at the buffet after all these years, and he goes and has a conversation with him. He doesn't go back to his mom. He doesn't. I mean, he doesn't go back to his wife. He doesn't. He just stays there for like 30 years and just eats. And I thought that was one of the best jokes, exaggerated jokes I've seen in any cartoon. I thought it was hilarious. And I thought it was funny where he says, "Hey, I don't remember the joke all that well, but he says something to like, I remember, hey, I know I haven't gone back, but hey, if you guys can find me, I'm gonna be here at this buffet. Let your mom know there's pie at this." And he's like goes on and continues to eat, which is just hilarious. I've never seen something like that before in any adult show. That's just crazy. And then there's certain episodes that they show. I think there's one dealing with the end of the world, and then dealing with uh corporate deals, and there's just so forth. There's just so many things that goes on, and unfortunately, the show was just short lived. Only 30 episodes, I think. So like each season had about like 15. Very unfortunate. This was a very funny show, and I highly recommend anybody. The writing in it is good. There's like never a moment that, to my knowledge, uh, where they would have a propaganda moment. Well, at least for me, at least for me, I can't recall the show ever having to do that. But I do recommend this show. In fact, you don't have to pay a dime. Just go up on YouTube. There's videos of actually having the whole series on there, and it was like for 10 hours. It's a very funny show. Like I highly recommend it. Dilbert, have you seen it? Comment below. Let me know if you have, and let me know what is your favorite underrated television